All right, let's get started with mental math. Go ahead and do your mental math, then pause the movie and then do your mental math and come right back and we will move on from there. All right, these mental math questions weren't super easy, so let's go through them. This, we're going to look and see we have a negative and a positive, so we have one negative, an odd number of negatives makes negatives, and then 5 times 15 is 75. The way I remember that is that 15 times 4 is 60, because I think a 15 minutes 4 times is 60 minutes, or an hour. So then I add 15 to 60, get 75, if you haven't memorized your 15s. Okay, this one we multiply 1.5 times 2, well that is 3.0, then we add the exponents, so 10 to the 9th. This one was maybe one of the nicer ones of the mental math. We subtract 4, so now we got 3t equals 36, 3 times 12 is 36. This one, you double 7.5%, so you double that, that's 15, and half 200, so that's 15% of 100. 15% of 100 is just $15. Okay, when you move from centimeters to millimeters, they're next door to each other as far as units go, so they're just 1 decimal point apart, so the decimal point goes to 25.4 millimeters. Okay, $1.50 is 3/5 of m, so what we figure out is what is 1/5. So I take 150 and divide it into 3 parts, and there are 50 cents. It goes into 150 3 times. So 1/5 is 50 cents. So 5/5 is 50 cents 5 times. And so there it is. If you had 5 sets of 50 cents, you'd have $2.50. Whew. Okay. If you're going 500 miles per hour, or your airplane was, you're going 500 miles per hour for 2.5 hours. Okay, so after 1 hour you go 500 miles. After 2 hours you're at 1,000 miles plus a half of this, which is 250. So we get 1,250 miles is how far you would fly. So, all right, so let's take an example other than example 1. Let's say that we need to convert 10 yards and we want to convert that into inches. Okay, now we do not have the unit multiplier for yards to inches. It's not one that we usually memorize, okay? So it actually takes 2 steps. You go from 10 yards to feet to inches, okay? So it's no longer just 1 step over to get to inches or 1 unit multiplier. We're going to use to do yards to feet, we're going to use this unit multiplier. There are 3 feet in 1 yard. And then for inches, we're going to use that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. Okay, in order to start at yards and end. So do you see how we have to use 2 unit multipliers? So this is information we use, and I did them correctly with the correct ones on top and bottom, so they will cancel out the units. Okay, I did it purposely. I did it perfectly. I did it purposely where I put the feet up here. I could have put 3 feet down here and 1 yard up here, but that would not have cross-canceled the yards out. Okay. And then I had the feet down here, even though I could have done 12 inches down here and 1 foot up here. That's not going to help us cancel out those feet. And we want to end in inches. So now we've got all these things crossed out, but now we look back at the numbers. We have a 10 upstairs, we got a 3 upstairs, and we got a 12, okay? So that means we need to multiply, and I'll just give you a visual. And in the algebra book, they do it this way. They show them together before they actually multiply through. So we had the 10, the 3, and the 12, and then it was over 1, so we don't even need to have a denominator. So that's 10 times 3 times 12. Okay, well I'm going to do 3 times 12 is 36. 36 times 10 is 360 inches. Okay, so what I demonstrated there is how to convert yards to inches using 2 unit multipliers to get to our final answer. So let's see how much that made sense. Let's jump into this one. Use 2 unit multipliers to convert 5 hours, and we're going to go to seconds, okay? But as you know, there is a unit in between hours and seconds, and so we probably have to do hours to minutes to seconds, because we don't really use the unit multiplier hours to seconds, okay? That would be a big step over. So let's start out with 5 hours, okay? The unit multiplier for hours to minutes, okay? Well, we know in 1 hour, notice I put that on the bottom so that these will cancel out. There are 60 minutes, okay? And then we also know that in 1 minute, and see how I put that down here, there are 60 seconds. And that way those will all cancel out. And now we're just left with 5 times 60 times 60 on top, okay? Well, 60 times 60 is, 3,600, sorry. 60 times 60 is 3,600 times 5, and I'm just going to go ahead and multiply that for you. 5 times 60 times 60 is 18,000 seconds. Actually, the book and proper way is to just do S for seconds. Okay. All right. So slow down if these aren't totally easy for you. Make sure you're getting this. Okay, now we're going to jump to another idea, and that is converting from 1 unit of area to another, okay? And it's useful to use 2 unit multipliers. And so let's consider that we have, let's pretend we've got this rectangle, okay? And it has an area of 3 times 2. I'm going to write it in here. It has an area of 6 feet squared, right? Now, remember, feet squared means that it means feet times feet. So if we did 3 feet times 2 feet, right? That's what we did, length times width. We actually get 6 feet times feet, or 6 feet squared is where we get that from. Not sure if you realize that. Okay, so if we want to convert feet squared, we want to get this in inches, okay? So we want to convert 6 feet squared, I'm going to do it up here, 6 feet, it's off there, okay, squared. So I'm going to do feet times feet, and we want to convert it to inches squared. That means we're going to need to use 2 unit multipliers, 1 for each foot. So okay, let me tell you, there's 1 foot is 12 inches. Okay, what that does though is cancels out 1 of our feet, but we still have another foot that we have to deal with, so we're going to do the same unit multiplier again. And now we've got enough to cancel out those feet, and we end up with inches times inches. So 6 times 12 is 72, and now Avery caught me, and I wrote 6 times 12 is 72, and that is not correct. So if you're watching this video now, it's too late to call me because I am fixing my error. It is 864 inches squared. And try. We're going to convert 5 yards squared, but instead of yards to the second power, let's write yards times yards. That'll help give you the visual on how to cancel these guys out. Okay, now we've got to use 2 unit multipliers to get rid of these yards, okay? Well, 1 yard, and we're going to feet. 1 yard is 3 feet, right? So what that does is cancels out 1 of our yards. But in order to get rid of that other yard, we're going to do the same thing again. Okay, and when we do that, we get the yards cancel out. And now we have 5 times 3 times 3. Okay, 5 times 3 is 15. And 15 times 3 is 45 feet. And there's 2 of them. So we're going to say feet squared. Okay, so this is pretty new. It's okay if it's a little uncomfortable. Okay, uncomfortable is good. It means you're learning. And you always can bring your questions to me if you get stuck. Okay, you can call, email, or text, and we will go through it. Odds are if you're confused, there's probably more people in the class that are confused. It's not just you. Okay, now we're going to convert 1.2 meters squared. So I'm going to say meters times meters. Okay, into square centimeters. So we're going to end up with centimeters up here. Okay, and there are how many centimeters in a meter? Okay, there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Okay, and they're written that way so my meters units can disappear, cancel out. Okay, so now we have 1.2 times 100 times 100. Okay, so I'm just going to write that over here because sometimes the algebra book shows it this way. Okay, and in the algebra solutions manual they actually allow it to stay this way, but I'm not sure about your solution manual, and I don't really like leaving it this way. I think we can actually multiply 1.2 times 100 times 100. 1.2 times 100, the decimal moves over, is 120. So now we have 120 times 100. Well, when you multiply it by 100, you add 2 zeros if you're done with decimals. So we get 12,000 centimeters squared. Okay. And now it's on for practice. So go ahead and give that a shot and then check back either in the solution manual or with me and see how you did. Okay, or you may watch just to see if you can find a mistake. Okay, I try not to make mistakes, but when it's late, and it is kind of late, or when I'm in a hurry, I can make a decent amount of mistakes. So it's up to you if you want to watch and check, or just check your answer key. Okay, I'm getting the answer key out to help prevent my making a mistake, so the odds are not in your favor today. All right, 5 yards, 2 inches. I'm going to start with 5 yards, and I'm going to have to go feet, from yards to feet to inches. Okay, so there are 3 feet in 1 yard, right? And then there is 1 foot, is 12 inches. Okay, and now I've got everybody canceled out who needs to be, and so now I have 5 times 3 times 12. And 5 times 3 times 12 is going to be 36 times 5 or 15 times 12. Okay, the way I would do that mentally is 15 times 10 is 150 plus 15 times 2, which is 30. So 150 plus 30. I get 180 inches. Okay, now we're going to do 1.5 hours, 2 seconds. Okay, and you can leave it at 1.5 hours. I'm going to leave it that way, even though I would probably prefer not to. I'm going to do it the way they did in the book, just to stretch you a little bit. And we're going to go to minutes and then to seconds. So there are, in 1 hour, there are 60 minutes. And, whoops, I'm a parentheses kind of person, but the book isn't on these, so I'm trying to stretch myself and doing it their way. All right, so there are, in 1 minute, 60 seconds. Okay, so now we have 1.5 times 60 times 60. Okay, so don't let that scare you. Oh, let's make sure our units cancel out. Okay, 1.5 times 60. Okay, 60 times 1 is 60, and then we add a half of 60. So 1.5 times 60 is actually 90. So now we have 90 times 60. Okay, 90 times 60 is 54 with 2 zeros. And there's our answer. Okay, now we're going to do yards squared to square feet. So, or square yards to square feet. So we've got 15 yards times yards. And that means we got to get 2 unit multipliers with yards on the bottom to cancel these babies out. Okay, so what we got to think about is we got to get to feet. Okay, there are 3 feet in a yard. So I'm going to put 3 feet, 1 yard, 3 feet, 1 yard. Okay. Now it looks like all my units cancel out, which is great news. And now we have 15 times 3 times 3, okay? Well, we could do 15 times 9. And that one way to do that is 15 times 9 is almost 15 times 10. It's just 15 less than 15 times 10. See if that makes any sense to you. 15 times 10 is 150. And then if I back up 15, I actually get 135. Feet squared. Now, don't be afraid. I'm using mental math to do these, but you always could go off to the side and be like, okay, what's 15 times 9? Okay? Or 43 times 3. You can always do that. There's no shame in that, okay? I have fun now with mental math now that I'm older. I would have always done this when I was your age because I was afraid of making a mistake doing mental math. And that's fine, okay? So now we have 20 centimeters, square centimeters to millimeters. So I'm going to put 20 centimeters, and centimeters to make sure I'm getting rid of it. Okay, and there are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Okay, if you forget that, think of a ruler, okay? There are 10 little tick marks in 1 centimeter, and those are the, millimeters, not meters, okay? So 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Now I get to do the fun part of crossing out the units. And so now we have 20 times 10 times 10. Okay, this one's kind of nice and easy. We have 1, 2, 3 zeros. It's 2 times 1 times 1 with 3 zeros. So it's 2, 0, 0, 0. 2,000 millimeters squared. Okay. And I believe that was it. So we just had 4 practices. They were fun. I hope you did them. Hope you weren't stuck, but if you did, go ahead and give me a call, email, or text, and it's fine. It's fun. It's okay not to get things the first time. Okay?